You know, it's a great honor for me to come to you every Sunday night on this network, the Fox News channel. And I want you to know something. I could not do this show anywhere else on cable, on network TV, and so forth, because they wouldn't allow it, I'm sure. So several years ago, Fox, Mr. Murdoch, and Suzanne Scott, the CEO, asked me if I would do a show. They didn't even ask me what kind of show. And I said, okay, let's do it. I'd like to do it on a Sunday night, late. I'd like to see how we can do it, a long-form interview. Do what you can and do the best you can. And that's pretty much the only direction I've ever been given. And so I tell you this for a reason. When I come here and do this program, I determine what I'm going to say in the opening statement. I determine who the guests are going to be. They have enough faith in me to know that I'm not going to blow the place up. And this is very important to understand because they treat all the hosts this way. They treat the newsroom this way. And this fantastic network, if it didn't exist, I want you to think about what kind of media you would be receiving day in and day out. From Meet the Press, from Good Morning America, from God knows what. It would just be the same thing over and over again. We really do have a competition of ideas here, even among conservatives, even within the newsroom. And that's a good thing. That's the way it's supposed to be. This is a vibrant, vigorous network. Nobody asked me to tell you this. I've just decided to say it, and I'm going to tell you why. Even though we come under attack here, we come under attack from the same sources who have lied to you about so much and continue to lie to you about so much. They're basically appendages of the Democrat Party. They're mouthpieces for the left. There's simply no question about that. We have all kinds of people here who have all kinds of ideas, and they're free to express them. And that's a good thing. It's called free speech. And this is one of those times I want to delve into something that not another network in this country has decided to discuss, and I know why. A couple of weeks ago, there was an event called the Savior's Day 2023. It was an event that was a paid event. There were thousands of people who went to that event. The media are well aware of this event. And it was an event led by Louis Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan is a bigot and a racist, and he has been for a very, very long time. And people who come to listen to him, they want to hear more and more of it. And his target is always Jewish people. Don't you find this weird? That this gets absolutely no coverage in the media? Virtually no coverage at all? Did you even know this was taking place if I hadn't mentioned it right here on Fox? I don't think you heard about it much on CNN or MSNBC, any of the nightly news programs. I don't think it was a headline in the New York Times or the Washington Post. But it is here on my Sunday show. And I want you to hear some of the things that Louis Farrakhan said the other day, just the other day, to thousands and thousands of people. And there's a reason why I'm doing this. Go.
Jewish power is what has all of our people of knowledge and wisdom and talent afraid. But just look at what these people control. At every door that leads to power, they have a sentinel on watch. Somebody has to take on the synagogue of Satan, and here we are. What good is your vote if the man you voted for has to go to somebody that you never elected behind the door to get instructions? And the Jews have become wealthy just by loaning money, charging you interest. And the stranglehold that Jews have on this government, the man in Israel said, don't worry about America. We got them. The synagogue of Satan has destroyed the country. A Jewish man said to me, you know, we say never again. Never again will we be in an oven. Never again. I said, hold it. You can say that to men, but you can't say that to God. Because the Bible says, behold, the day cometh that shall burn as a what? As an oven. And those who do wickedly, he will slay them and leave them neither root nor branch.
Seems to be predicting another Holocaust there, as best as I can tell. Now, why have I played this for you? Because the media have utterly ignored it. This man has an impact with tens of thousands of people. And he has a significant impact in the Democrat Party. Is there a reason Joe Biden didn't condemn this? Is there a reason Kamala Harris didn't condemn this? Is there a reason why nobody at the White House has mentioned it? Is there a reason why the Washington Press Corps blows this off? Yeah, there are reasons for this. I want to remind you in 2005, at a Congressional Black Caucus lunch on Capitol Hill, Farrakhan was invited. And among those who participated was then Senator Barack Obama, a young man, 2005, a senator, but he had ambitions to run for president nonetheless. And here's that photo, that infamous photo that they covered up until well after he'd won 2 elections. And he's never really accounted for this. And neither is the Congressional Black Caucus. Why did they invite this man? Because the Democrat Party has a problem. And it's beyond the Democrat Party at this point, isn't it? In National Review back in 2019, Kevin Williamson pointed out, the Democrats have a minor socialist problem. At the point was that they don't like being called socialists. They have a major problem in the form of Jew-hating weirdos. Prominent among them, the Reverend Louis Farrakhan of the so-called Nation of Islam. Farrakhan has been out and proud Jew-hating weirdo for many decades, but Democrats still feel the need to make gestures of obeisance before him. Anti-Trump leaders such as Tamika Mallory or Linda Sarsour of the Women's March have embraced Farrakhan and courted his favor. Barack Obama came a-calling in 2005 when he was ramping up his political career. The Congressional Black Caucus has consulted him. Bill Clinton stood alongside him at Aretha Franklin's funeral, implicitly elevating the cult leader. California Democrats Barbara Lee, she now wants to be a senator, and Maxine Waters attended Farrakhan's public events, and Obama administration veteran Eric Holder posed for a picture with him. Farrakhan is an anti-Semite. About that, there is no real debate. Eric Holder, Maxine Waters, others who confer status and influence on Farrakhan and his gang, maybe they aren't anti-Semitic. They certainly are collaborators. Newly elected Representative Ilhan Omar apparently cannot open her mouth without letting out an anti-Semitic libel accusing Jews of being unpatriotic, the dual loyalty canard, and of bribing U.S. political leaders into supporting Israel. The Jews, she insists, push for allegiance to a foreign country. Representative Rashida Tlaib has similar problems and turns out to have been a contributor to one of Farrakhan's baddie publications. Members of the Democratic Socialists of America, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, is a member, recently chanted eliminationist slogans calling for the liquidation of the Jewish state. Oh, that's not anti-Semitism, their apologists will say. That's anti-Zionism. And Farrakhan has used that line of defense, but it doesn't work. The viciousness and slander of the Democrats' attacks on Israel are unique. Give them a Cuban police state or a Venezuela dictatorship and they're kittens. But give them a polity full of Jews and they're jackals. The double standards and unreasoning hatred of the progressive view of Israel simply does not have an equivalent associated with a non-Jewish state. Even their anti-Americanism is not quite as poisonous. The New York Times spent most of World War II covering up the Holocaust, covering up for the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler. And yet it's still held out as the gold standard when it comes to the media, not by us, but by a lot of other people. You have Jewish people who write for that corporation without any shame or embarrassment. Any corporation that, in effect, helped the Third Reich by censoring what they were doing, seems to me, should have been shamed out of business, but not the New York Times. In fact, the New York Times runs columns by a guy by the name of Thomas L. Friedman. You might have heard about him. He's no Farrakhan, please don't get me wrong, and he's no anti-Semite. He's Jewish. But he writes column after column attacking Netanyahu, attacking the conservatives in Israel, even attacking Israel. And people don't understand exactly who this gentleman is, with all of his Pulitzer Prize and so forth. And I want to commend to you a piece in Commentary from a few years back that explains that, in terms of Thomas Friedman, he's always been quite odd with respect to the state of Israel and the right of the Jews to have a state. He's been very sympathetic. He was even sympathetic to the PLO, to the Palestinians and so forth. And he's their big writer over there. That is Thomas Friedman. And he puts out a piece, American Jews, you have to choose sides on Israel. And in this piece, he says, choose sides against Netanyahu. Netanyahu has destroyed the relationship between Israel and the United States. He's destroyed the bipartisanship when Democrats and Republicans all supported Israel. He says it really started in 2009. That is a lie. For Thomas Friedman, it started when he was a young man and was associated with the most radical groups imaginable and wrote some of the most outrageous pieces and said some of the most outrageous things as he rewrites his own history, as the New York Times has rewritten its own history. And now the Biden administration, of course, is the most hostile administration to the state of Israel since the Obama administration. And our friends at the Free Beacon, Adam Cradle, points out, your taxpayer dollars are being run through the United States State Department. They're flowing to a group bankrolling anti-Netanyahu protests. Money's flowing from our State Department to try and undermine the administration of an elected prime minister of the state of Israel because the Biden administration does not support Netanyahu. Obama did the same thing during the course of his administration. Now, before I end my opening statement here, these anti-Semitic tirades, these policies that are not necessarily driven by anti-Semitism, but in many ways have the same impact and same effect, they have consequences. In the state of Israel today, there's virtually an armed civil war going on, partly promoted by our own government, the Secretary of State, the ambassador to Israel, the President of the United States. Our media is reporting very, very little about it. This is an ally. This is a democratic country we're talking about. They don't do this to fascistic regimes or communist regimes, do they? But this is the American left. But these anti-Semitic tirades, they have an impact. And you know, it's funny, they've tried to turn Donald Trump into an anti-Semite, despite the fact that his daughter converted to Judaism. She's an Orthodox Jew and he has Jewish grandchildren, despite the fact that he has done more for the state of Israel than any president in history. And despite the fact that his door has always been open to rabbis, to people of the Jewish faith, as well as people of every faith, for that matter. But I want to tell you something else about this Nick Fuentes. President Trump had lunch with him and Kanye West, and they tried to turn him into Adolf Hitler. I just told you about the Democrat Party. And I just told you about Trump's record when it comes to Israel and Judaism. At CPAC, they've tried to turn this into a white supremacist event. It is not a white supremacist event. I'm there. Many wonderful young people are there. Other people are there. It is a conservative event. So this effort to try and turn conservatism into the KKK, into neo-Nazism, is really amazing, especially considering the history of the Democrat Party and its embrace of the KKK and slavery and segregation and Jim Crow. Despite its history of filibustering the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act, despite its current president, Joe Biden, being a racist and segregationist early in his career, opposing public school integration, calling it a jungle. Yeah. No, CPAC is a wonderful event, but this is spreading, and it's very, very ugly. The President of the United States is saying almost nothing about any of this. The Democrat leadership is tolerating anti-Semitism. The pages of the New York Times are full-throat anti-state of Israel, which is a Jewish state, just as it covered up the Holocaust more than half a century ago. And I know that most of you aren't Jewish, but you are righteous. You are righteous. You understand right from wrong. Most of you had ancestors or relatives who fought in World War II. You understand. And this is why I want to thank Fox, because nowhere else that I know of would I be able to make a presentation like this.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to LevinTV.com and subscribe now.